So for me, I've always been a person that wanted to be debt free.
Yeah.
So I've always managed my expenses very, very low because I know this business is cyclical. It's based on the economy, it's based on the industry, based on a lot of different things. So I've always been one that focused on being debt free. So when I get a large check, man, it's not like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna go buy a new house, a new pair of shoes, a new car. No, I live off a pretty conservative budget. Now I live a lifestyle I want to live, and I enjoy life and all that. But I know some difficult times are coming, so I've always encouraged myself and those who come work for me to plan for the worst, because those challenging times are coming.
I heard money don't grow on trees, but I still believe I can achieve, cause cash rules everything around me, around me, around me, around me. Money don't grow on trees, but I still believe.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the NAACP Image Award winning Black Money Tree podcast, where we are working hard to educate you, teach you about building wealth so that we can build our communities. I'm really excited about our next guest. Is a man who I've admired for many years. He's dominating in an industry that not many African Americans are really very versed at. So with that said, we have a man who's had more than 40 years of experience in commercial real estate. So welcome to the podcast, Ed Ryland.
Hey man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
All right.
Glad to be here.
So let's start right off the top with my intro. Real estate, a lot of people are getting into it, particularly African Americans. Some people think it's quick money. You're in commercial real estate, and you've been in it almost 40 years, and it's not a lot of African Americans in it. So talk a little bit about commercial real estate and how you have been able to survive and thrive for as long as you have.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And I always thought, I know we say this a lot, but when I look back over the last 40 years, I wonder sometimes, how the hell have you been in this business through all of the ups and downs and challenges? And I got to go back to number one, it's a lot of us grounded by, faith, right? So things get tough. But what we've done over the last 40 years is we've always had a strategic plan that we go by. And so every year we look out and say, okay, what do we think is going to happen? What do we think is not going to happen? What are going to be our challenges? What are going to be our opportunities? And we've been able to build a plan around that. But for me, the reason I've personally been able to stay in it is because I recognized early that if I was going to be in this game, I couldn't just say I want to do commercial real estate and start practicing. I started studying the most successful commercial real estate people in the industry. And I found a couple of things. One, they had designations. Two, they had mentors. And three, not only mentors, they had advocates that helped them be successful. So my first thing was to identify what designations were accepted in the commercial real estate industry, regardless of what color you are or where you come from. And there was one designation that stood out. That was the CCIM designation. It's considered the PhD of commercial real estate. Okay. And so I was the first African American in this region to receive that designation. It took 4 years and thousands of dollars to get it. But once you get it, you become very, very knowledgeable of commercial real estate.
So talk about that designation. I know that one of the things that we've talked about this with a lot of our guests is education and getting degrees. And sometimes, I'm not just going to say African Americans, but people in general, it's kind of been ingrained in us. Things ain't going well, go get another degree. And it perpetuates the economics of the schools and other folk. I was thinking about getting my MBA at one point, and a friend of mine said, Jerome, they call it MBA school for a reason. They said, you're gonna get a B, they say it's B school for a reason. And ultimately what he was saying is, I had another friend who got his MBA from Duke, and he said, Jerome, when I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to my colleague. You would bring more to the course than you would get out. So the question is, does the designation really train you and teach you how to be successful in a business? Or is it the title makes you more attractive because people perceive you have a greater level of knowledge? What would you say?
It's a combination of both, but the first is most important,
really?
Right?
Okay.
Because once they see the designation, if you don't have if they perceive you have the knowledge and you don't have the knowledge, it's a dead end there, right? So Commercial real estate is so different. Every transaction is different, right? You're dealing with all types of challenges and issues and financial conversations. So it's the education and the knowledge. But what gets you through the door is people recognizing that you have that designation, because when they see that designation, they know what went behind that designation, and so they're more comfortable in working with you.
Okay. So let's talk about this. I know you'll remember the deal. We did a deal together. We sold it was some type of funplex with golfing and all kinds of other stuff out in Missouri City. Oh, yeah. And I guess you don't remember, but you remember when we did the showing. It was a very nice prime piece of real estate.
Right.
And it was a non-African American coming to show it.
Right.
And he looked and says, "How did y'all get this listing?"
Oh, yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, how you get your listings? And you didn't even seem to, it was almost like you didn't even hear the comment.
Right.
And I took your lead, so I didn't respond.
Right.
And then afterwards, you said you handled that very well. So it was almost like that you anticipate that, or that happens all the time. Talk a little bit about that experience and how, being an African American, how difficult is it?
It's very difficult because relationships is what really drives the commercial real estate industry, and most of us don't have the relationships with CEOs of banks and CEOs of institutions and people who sit in these very strategic, powerful positions, who are able to afford you the opportunity to handle commercial real estate. So we're pretty much first generation commercial real estate people. Most African Americans are first, if you're in commercial real estate, you're first generation. So you don't have that history. So you can just assume that anytime you walk in the room, most of the time when I first started, I was the only one that looked like me in the room. So you just get used to it. Once they see you and they see your credentials and they see how you understand the conversation, then it moves on. But before then, it's challenging to get in those rooms. And even today, 40 years later, the number of African Americans in commercial real estate is embarrassingly low. It still is today.
Yeah. What do you think can be done to change those numbers?
We tried doing the George Floyd deal, where a lot of these companies were saying we got to get minorities in, we got to help them, get involved in this industry, we got to, not only mentor them, but help them stay in the business. That worked for a short period of time, and as you know now, the DI conversation is falling on deaf ears for a lot of folks right now. Yeah. And what I'm seeing now is people like us are getting out of this industry because they don't have the support that they thought they were going to have long term. And it's challenging to stay in this business. It's a 24 to 36 month learning cycle. That means that you're gonna starve for 24 to 36 months. So if you don't have the financial wherewithal, if you don't have the mentors to help you, it's gonna be very difficult to stay in this business.
Yeah. I think that's real estate in general. I remember we were talking once, and that was one of the things you told me. You said you don't close as many deals, the deals are bigger. So when they close, you got to understand it might be another 5-6 months before you get a check. So you got to manage your money well. What systems have you put in place? Or talk a bit about, you get a big check, you close a $2 million deal, you got a $80,000, $90,000 check, $120,000 check. What do you just, I assume you just treat it like a corporation. You pay the corporation and then you draw a salary and just kind of go from there. Or talk about how you manage that type of resources.
Yeah, I remember, man, I came home one day, not intentionally, but I laid a check on the counter. And Tiffany, she saw that check, that changed her mind about what she was going to do. And she got in commercial real estate. Yeah. I said, wait a minute now. Yeah, it's a big check. But let me tell you the history behind it. Yeah. It does take some time to do it. So for me, I've always been a person that wanted to be debt free. Yeah. So I've always managed my expenses very, very low because I know this business is cyclical. It's based on the economy, it's based on the industry, based on a lot of different things. So I've always been one that focused on being debt free. So when I get a large check, man, it's not like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna go buy a new house, a new pair of shoes, and a new car. No, I live off a pretty conservative budget. and I live the lifestyle I want to live, and I enjoy life and all that. But I know some difficult times are coming, so I've always encouraged myself and those who come work for me to plan for the worst, because those challenging times are coming. And when I first got in the industry, man, it was double-digit interest rates, foreclosures everywhere. It was a tough time.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some of that stuff, over the last several years happen again. Tough times. So
where did you learn your money management skills? Were you taught about, because a lot of African Americans aren't even taught about money at home. Where did you learn how to manage your money in such a way?
Probably a combination of three things. One, single parent, my mom managed a household. I never went without anything. I didn't know I was poor until I graduated out of that, out of school. So she was very good on money management. Then I had an uncle who stepped in as a father figure, man. This guy was a serial entrepreneur before I knew anything about serial entrepreneurs. Yeah. He owned a shoe shine parlor, a furniture store, a cleaning company, and I worked with him from the time I was like 9, 10 years old, and I just watched what he did.
Okay.
And then so that was there. But my formal training, I have a double major in business administration and economics, psychology. So I learned a lot of the formal stuff there, small business stuff. And I've just continued to take a lot of classes. I tell folks all the time, I was always a pretty good real estate professional. I have not always been a good CEO. So what I've done since I've graduated, I've taken a lot of education around how I can be a better CEO. I can make a good widget, don't mean I can run a widget making factory. Yeah. But now I can run a widget making factory because I understand the psychology of being a CEO.
So break that down. When you say CEO, I hear management, organization, strategy, structure, putting people in place. Is that what you mean? And break that down. So if that is, what have you learned that's helped you to be so successful in that area?
So I think, for the most part, it depends on your organization. If you have a large organization, which most small minority-owned firms or small firms, period, they're a CEO, but they're also responsible for a lot of other things that CEOs are not responsible for in large corporations. Yeah. The most important thing for me to do was to set the culture of the company. So folks know that when you come to our company, that the culture of our company is integrity, professionalism, and value. How do we add value to everything we do? How do we make sure that we have integrity in everything we do so the people that work here, when they go outside of our organization, people see and feel that. So I think that's one of the most important things that the CEO can do is set the culture. So when people come in, they'll know that. And then the other thing is to be involved in the strategy of the company, short-term, long-term strategy. I think those are the most important things that a CEO can do.
I think that's important. One of the guys, we were talking about him off camera, Edwin Boso, he's been kind of helping me to build my corporate culture and setting up the organization. And that was one of the things he told me was to establish the culture, set the values. And what I found that it does, once you establish the culture, you coming on board, these are our values, these are our systems, these are our expectations. When there are infractions, it takes out the personal aspect. You remember when we came in and we said that these were the values. Do you think that this is consistent with those values? Okay, now we've agreed that these are the values, so it doesn't make it personal. At least that's what I found.
No, you're absolutely correct. No, you're right. You're correct.
Man, one of the things that I have kind of admired about you, it's funny, you called me a couple of years ago and you said, Jerome, I'm going to buy a house this year and I need you to help me to find a house. And that was surprising to me because you're a real estate agent. You've been a real estate agent longer than me. So technically you could find your own house. You referred a couple of deals to me as well. And in my mind, I'm baffled. I'm like, why ain't he trying to get that money too? But it seems to be clear that this is my path. Right. This is my lane. And I think a lot of times we're trying to chase all of these streams and paths and then we get misfocused on the main thing. How did would you say that's correct? Yeah. And were you ever in that type of mindset where you were trying to chase multiple things, or were you always just focused as you are now?
No, I mean, there was a point where, early in my career, I tried to, especially when you're starving like hell, man, you just try to do anything, right? First get in business, man. And I got in the worst time. But at any rate, I found quickly that residential was not what I wanted to do. I mean, I was not, my passion was not there, and I was not delivering the best service once I got connected to commercial. Once I found out about commercial real estate, man, everything else was like on the sideline.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, if I'm not going to provide top quality service, don't do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, I want people to look at me as the expert in commercial real estate. I don't want them to think I'm a part-time, I don't want a part-time dentist, a part-time doctor, a part-time nothing. I want folks to know that I'm 100% committed to their success, and I'm 100% committed to being the best commercial real estate person that's out there. And so I just decided I'm not going to take any more residential assignments. I'm not even going to work on my own house, because there's things that you guys know about residential that I don't know, and I'm not even trying to learn it. So, you know, good luck, take the money, and let me just focus on what I can do.
Yeah. So how were you introduced to commercial real estate?
By making a terrible mistake. When I first, and this is really great because this year it comes full circle. When I first moved to Houston in 1980, you know, I convinced my best friend to go in with me, and we bought some land off of 290 in Jackrabbit Road. The worst decision I ever made, man. I knew nothing about real estate at all. I'm reading the paper, and like everybody else, man, we're gonna get rich, man. Let's go buy this land, we're gonna get rich. Man, 40 years later, I still own that land, and this year was the first year that it made sense for us to sell it. Now we'll sell it, and we've been getting offers on it that's about 4 times what we paid for it, so like 400%, right? But damn, it took me 40 years.
Yeah.
So that pushed me into real estate. I said, if you're going to be doing this stuff, you need to know something about it. So I started taking so many classes. I said, well, you got all these classes, you might as well get your license. Got my license. Got your license, might as well sell real estate on the part-time. I started doing that. I was working for the state of Texas at that time. They came in, laid everybody off. I said, well, you know, I'll try this stuff for 6 months. If that don't work, I'll get a real job. That's been damn near 40 years, and I've been trying to find a real job.
2 questions. Well, one, is the best friend still in with you on the land?
Yeah, he's still in. He's still in.
Did he go into real estate at all?
No, he did not.
He did not. Okay. So you said it was the worst deal. It don't sound that bad to me. Why do you say it was the worst deal you've ever made?
Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I read the paper. They said, come out here, buy this land, you're going to get rich. I'm young. I'm 20-something years old back then. Yeah, we're going to get rich. Didn't know anything about it. And so that was the worst decision. Had I known what I know now, I would have hired a commercial real estate broker to help me understand the market, help me understand the trends, help me understand the upside, downside. And you know, maybe I would have bought it, maybe I wouldn't. But I would not have held on to it. I would not have bought it thinking it would be 40 years almost before I could sell it.
So what was the plan when you bought it? To buy it and flip it? Or were you going to build something on it?
The plan was to buy it and hold it for a few years and then sell it, because we thought that the path of growth was coming in that direction. So we'd buy the land, path of growth is coming, we'll sell it to a developer, or sell it to a builder somewhere, and they'll buy it, and we'll get our money and move on. That was the plan.
Okay.
That was the plan.
So talk about your daughter. I know, well, you have multiple kids, 3, I believe.
Right.
And grandkids now as well, one granddaughter.
Yep.
And I know Tiffany is into the business, and she posts all the time on social media. And it seems to be great pride that you take in training and teaching her. What is the one thing that you believe that you've imparted in her that maybe you wish you would have had?
That you can do anything you want to do, even in an industry like this that is tremendously underrepresented by people of color, and especially people of color that are women. Yeah. And so my thing is that I don't care who you're talking to, you go toe to toe with them, and you do not, you not bow down, you don't be disrespectful, but don't let them push you around. You know this business. You're a commercial real estate expert. So do not be afraid to talk to them. Do not be afraid to push back. Stand toe to toe with them.
So did she grow up in the business? Because you've pretty much 40 years, pretty much that's her whole life.
Even before she was here, yeah. And she talks about it a lot,
Okay.
She was under the desk at 2 o'clock in the morning while we were working, right?
Yeah.
So she's grown up in the business, but she had really no real desire to be in the business until about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, she was doing her thing in Atlanta and all that stuff. So,
yeah. What about your other children?
So they're smarter than Tiffany and I. They have, well, my son, he and his best friend opened up a bread pudding company, Gulf Coast Bread Pudding.
Okay.
So he's an entrepreneur. My daughter, she has a 9-to-5, has no desire to be on commission. She said, I like getting those regular checks. I got my license, but y'all need me to do something, but I'm gonna keep getting these regular checks.
Awesome. So what would be, I don't know if it's the same, but I was gonna say, if you could go back 20, 30 years when you were starting out, what would be the one thing that you wish you would have known? Or what the one or two tips that you wish you would have known that you share with others?
Well, get a mentor.
Okay.
And not just a mentor, get an advocate too. Because a mentor, I believe, can help coach you when you call or they call you. But an advocate is going to be looking out for your career. He's going to be looking to put you in position to be successful. That's the other thing. The second thing would be build good, strong relationships with people that are in key positions.
Yeah.
Those would be two things that I would absolutely say folks have to.
So how challenging is that? Because of course, a lot of relationship is commonality. Commonality is culture. This is a culture that's not African American. How do you build the relationships to build your business? How challenging has that been?
It's very challenging, man. And it takes time. It takes a long time. And we have some significant strategic partnerships now that it took years to build. And what you have to do is definitely get out of your comfort zone and go to those places that you don't normally go.
Yeah.
You know, identify where you think those decision makers are. You gotta find a way to get to those folks. You gotta find different organizations that you don't normally hang out with. You gotta do different things that you don't normally do. You gotta get in those rooms where those decision makers are that are gonna be making the decisions on whether or not you get hired by them or someone they know.
Yeah. Okay, good advice. Well, Ed, thank you so much for joining us on the Black Money Tree podcast. I know you have a book. I know you have the commercial real estate company, probably some other things I don't know about. This is your time. If there are any websites, handles, anything you want to share, feel free to share at this time.
Well, two things real quickly. One is I do have the book, The Secrets to Building a Successful Minority-Owned Company. Folks have really been excited about that because it gives you good, practical, easy, I can implement something today. So that book is available, and that book is available at edryland.com or on Amazon. But the most exciting thing I'm talking about these days is the fact that we just launched Arvo Small Business. You know, I just mentioned that we've been in business for over 40 years, and we've worked with major corporations, you know, helping them with very complicated, comprehensive commercial real estate transactions. The same thing with government entities. You know, we work with government entities doing the same thing. And what we've noticed is that corporate entities and government entities have in-house commercial real estate people helping them navigate through these very challenging commercial real estate transactions. The piece that's missing is a small business. The small business people are out there trying to do it on their own, and they are getting hammered. They're paying more money. The terms of deals that they're negotiating is crazy. And the difference between success and failure could be how they structure their commercial real estate transactions. The two most expensive line items for most small business is their personnel, human resource, and their facilities, their office, their warehouse, or whatever. To the degree that they can manage those effectively will determine how successful they are and whether or not they even stay in business. So Arvo Small Business was created specifically to be a resource to help small business. And the last point I would make is oftentimes it's at no cost to them. Most small businesses think they have to pay us for our services. In many cases, they do not have to pay us for our services.
Okay, awesome. Well, congrats on all the success, and thank you for joining us on the Black Money Tree podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, thank you.